The subject that we have for this session with our very eminent panel is our foreign policy. And if we had to sum up Prime Minister Modi's foreign policy and try and understand it, I think the very first gateway into this subject is the absolute conviction that India needs a foreign policy for the 21st century. Second, that there has to be transformative thinking, not simply on the issues that were discussed, for instance, in the earlier panel this morning, but there has to be transformative thinking in foreign policy as well. And when you start thinking and when you open the pores, trust me, even conventional phrases begin to look different. I hope I'm not being critical, I'm just trying to explain my point. India at 70 is a phrase we all take for granted, I took for granted, until it suddenly occurred to me that we are sitting in Goa. And in Goa, can we say India at 70? No, it's India at 56. And Indian independence is really 1961, when our country became independent. In 1947, Hyderabad was not independent, it was under colonial foreign rule. So, moment we start thinking, we begin to examine the process. Of course, it is well known that our foreign policy had to be rescued from apathy. Literally, that's the kindest word I can think of. And we could see that India's apathy towards large parts of the world was actually jailed into a large part of the world's apathy towards India. And much of our work now is to get engagement, but then so much of the heavy lifting is being done by the Prime Minister himself that, in that sense, he's really making breakthrough advances. But how would I describe the theme of his foreign policy? And as we think back, there is one phrase which I think Jayant also mentioned. It has become a very conventional phrase which has defined foreign policy for the last 2, maybe 3 centuries at the very least, and that is this phrase called balance of power. And if you think about balance of power as a phrase, it's basically creating an equivalence of tensions and trying to maintain, not create peace, but trying to maintain stability through the equivalence of tensions. If we had to find a theme for Prime Minister Modi's foreign policy, and I dare say for his other policies as well, I would reverse that. It is the power of balance, not the balance of power. And it is this power of balance that enables us today to have the best of relations with what are conventionally seen as competing binaries. So we have excellent relations with America, we have excellent relations with Russia. We have excellent relations with Israel, and tomorrow I head towards Ramallah for the first joint commission. Think about it. For the first, what was happening all these years? We have very good relations with Iran. We have excellent relations with Saudi. So it is this theme that maintained in India's interest the power of balance. This is the principle. And from this principle emerge concentric circles which radiate across the globe. The first concentric circle has to be our neighborhood. That is obviously for any country the most, and given the context in which our neighborhood has been placed, that is both, I think, most productive area of our engagement as perhaps the most problematic area for it. What is the problem with our neighborhood? The problem with our neighborhood is there is a very serious hood in the neighborhood. And this is a disruptive presence. a hugely disruptive presence. You can just, we won't take too much time over this, but you can see how on the issue of a very important fact, which is SAARC, every single nation of SAARC has supported Prime Minister Modi. This is unprecedented. Many of the things that are happening are unprecedented. The support we achieved in the non-aligned movement, the support we achieved in the United Nations, it's absolutely unprecedented. I was privileged to be at both places. And we engaged country after country, and there is great respect not only for the dynamism and the levels of engagement that the Prime Minister has brought into this policy, but also for his thinking, because what are we doing? We are upgrading non-alignment, which was the bedrock of so many years. We are upgrading it to something relevant to the present era, which is alliances for prosperity. So, if I might coin a phrase, the local area concentric circle could be called glocal, and around that the larger concentric circle of global. And both are powered by the principle of seeking prosperity, which is mutual, which is beneficial, and underpinned by this very important principle that, and actually fact, that there can be no prosperity without peace. And today the greatest threat to peace is terrorism. And in fact, the father, grandfather, and mother of terrorism actually emanates from our neighborhood. So this is the challenge, this is our response, and this is, I hope, the manner in which briefly we hope to engage the world. And with these few introductory remarks, I open the floor first to interventions from our panelists, then I hope we have a few questions from your side, and see if at the very end we can do something which is very rare in diplomacy, which is come to a resolution. Thank you.